Hi, Minesh Baxi here, and I have a young man, dapper, and you can't tell that he's much taller. But how much taller are you than I'm? About 5'3" and a half.
6'5".
6'5". Okay, there you are.
We'll make it
look like it.
We'll make it work.
We'll make it work. My name is Minesh, obviously, and this is David Liebrecht. Is that how you pronounce it?
It is. Perfect.
Very good. Fantastic. So, well, I'm glad to have you here.
Thanks for
and I'm
having
looking
me.
forward to a great time together.
Me too.
So now your background is different kinds of businesses in terms of financial and so on and so forth. And today you are in healthcare to some degree, right?
Yes.
That's what you'd call that.
For sure.
Just tell a little bit about your background in general, because I think people want to know who this is.
Yeah, so in addition to being a taller gentleman, I've been in sales for the past almost 11 years. I think I was kind of that weird kid growing up that always knew I wanted to be in sales and business in some capacity. I think I get a little of that from my dad, who's a business owner, and I had the fortune of going to a great high school at St. Francis, a great college, University of Toledo, and they had their an actual sales program that was a major, which is kind of a unique thing.
Wow, I've never heard that
Yeah,
before.
it's one of, I'd love to give the stats. You two would probably kill me for not knowing, but I think it's like one of 10, let's say. And a lot of kids I knew were like accounting and finance and a lot of different things. And so I always had an interest in sales and marketing. And after that, I kind of had a couple different roles, but they all had a very strong sales feel to them. And then my role currently is no different. So right now I'm a sales and marketing person for a healthcare company called Heartland, which is owned by ProMedica and HCR Manor Care. And we do skilled nursing and rehab for folks. So the gist of that basically is that when people are at the hospital but they're not strong enough to go home, they'd use us for a short period of time to rehab them. And so we see a lot of people that are injured or sick or have procedures done that they just need a little bit of time to strengthen themselves. And so that's what I'm doing now.
Very good. And you married?
Married.
Children?
Yeah, currently. For the record. Where's the camera here? Hi, Celeste. Very happily married. Met my wife 7 years ago. Been married for 5. We have a little boy, about a year and a half, Dawson. And we're expecting, we don't know the gender of our baby, but we're due in March of this year. So 2 under 2, and this is my last radio TV interview I'll ever do, and then you'll never see me again. I don't know. We'll see. We're excited, though. We're excited. We're all of my friends have kids that are a little bit older, so I've been able to kind of watch the do's and don'ts. And we're just really
So you're a perfect parent from that perspective.
Oh, I'm going to just give the perfect parenting advice to my children.
So what do you do for fun? Obviously, you were athletic, I would assume, or?
Yeah, I like working out. I like staying active. Kind of, I guess, unique to me. I love men's clothing, like suits and sport coats and such.
Yeah, I can see that.
Yeah, so I like, that's kind of a hobby. Love watches, and kind of a weird thing. My wife is not a huge barbecue fan. I'm a avid BBQ guy. So anything with barbecue sauce on it, I'm there. Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah.
So was it a big shift moving from Toledo to Detroit area?
It's nice. So my family lives a little bit more south into kind of the Bedford Temperance area, so right over the border. And then my in-laws live in Lansing. So it's this nice middle ground of you have to call before you come, but you're not in the backyard, but we still don't have to take a flight to get to places. And they like seeing Dawson, When he was born, we'd go to events or Christmas parties, and my dad would walk right by me. And he'd be like, "Where's your kid?" And so it's good. It's a good distance, and we like it. It's still the Midwest.
It's still the Midwest,
Yeah.
And I think that's definitely the positive part of the family culture there.
For sure.
Which is very helpful as well. So we talked about the services that you provide, and I think one of the things people want to know today,
Sure.
because it happens to a lot of people. They're in their 30s, 40s, and suddenly they realize they have children who are young, right?
Yeah.
And they also have parents who need some assistance, guidance, and maybe you're in your 30s, 40s, 50s, or 60s, or whatever
Right.
that is. And I know I have a mother who's about 87 years old.
Okay.
I have a mother-in-law who is 94 years old. And
She's just showing off.
So the lucky part for me and my wife is we got genes which should keep us alive for a while,
Sure,
right?
sure.
But people have challenges, and I think that was one of the things we were talking about. So tell me a little bit about what are some of the challenges the sandwich generation faces when they're taking care of young ones and obviously seniors as well.
For sure. So I think the more I stay in this field in the healthcare space, I get a lot of questions on where we should help mom if she needs services, and I get questions of who should know this information. And I think it's very much, you and I both kind of have a finance background, and it's kind of, I relate that there's a lot of parallels. And the reason I say that is no one really thinks tomorrow they're going to retire, and they're not really thinking about it. Just in the same breath, most people are not thinking, hey, I need to, consider independent or assisted living or home care or skilled nursing or whatever those healthcare arenas are. And so I think the sandwich generation is really tough because I look at my parents, for example, and they're in their 60s. And my grandparents, 3 out of the 4 are still with us.
Oh, that's
and
great.
They're all almost 90 plus. And so I as the oldest child, my brother's a little younger than I am, but they're kind of doing, hey, make sure we're still being good law-abiding citizens as my parents are watching over us. And then they're also trying to, in many ways, guide and help their parents, kind of like you are. So I think it's a really taxing situation. And what's even more challenging is those people's time is so limited because many times those people are still working a lot. My mom, for example, providing daycare a couple days a week for us, while also my grandparents are in assisted living. So it's just this. I don't think we've ever had it in the entire country like it is now. 100 years ago, everybody just moved in with each other, and we kind of were in that more village mentality where everyone kind of took care of each other. And so now it's everybody doesn't live right around the corner from each other. A lot of my close friends, their families live away. And then it becomes even more taxing to make a really big decision for your family when you're not local. So
Very
yeah, it's tough. It's very challenging.
Very good point. Indian culture, to some degree, is still the same way.
Yes.
And my parents are in India. My father died a while ago, but my mother is alive, and she lives with my brother and his wife. And I think that's very common in certain cultures more than others. And I think the trend is moving towards people living independently.
Yes.
But my mother, from that perspective, took care of us, obviously.
Right.
And now my brother and my sister there as well. They take care of her. And it's a good support system to have.
Right.
Because in that case, you may not need that. But that's not practical for a lot of people today.
It isn't. It isn't. I think, it's, again, to the parallels of finance and then also healthcare, there's so much. We're inundated now with everybody's the expert. Yes. Everybody is the person that can solve the problems. When many of them don't really understand kind of the whole, we kind of talked on the phone about the healthcare continuum. From the day you're born to the day you're not here anymore, you kind of fall within that, whether you're healthy and young or you have some medical challenges. Anytime you interact with hospitalists or medical professionals.
Yeah,
and so it's just really interesting to see as things evolve within the healthcare space, how companies are providing the service, how we're making it known to them. Are you becoming the person that just sells it? Are you educating them on what is possible? So it's just it's been interesting as a younger person looking at what people are kind of going after, and how they're marketing themselves. And then also, to your point about, we went from people kind of staying in their own communities or right in their backyard or with their own families to moving towards now you're kind of not on your own, but you are a little bit more on your own to make decisions.
I agree with you. I think that's always a little bit of a challenge in understanding that. So what attracted you to obviously doing what you do today, which is in the space of rehabilitation, for example? So
when I was doing financial services, it was kind of a combination of two things. My wife saw the posting online mixed with one of my best clients work for the company. And I don't know if I was getting him like a poor rate of return or something, but he could sense that I wasn't loving the financial aspects of certain parts of the job. And he said, hey, I'm in a healthcare role. I kind of knew a little bit about what he did. And he said, hey, I think you'd be really, really good at this job. And so it was kind of a combination of finding something and then hearing about it at the same time. It's the first time in my career that I feel like I'm selling for a wonderful service that I get to see the before, during, and after, as opposed to selling a widget. And so I've sold like elevator contracts online. I've sold custom clothing to folks, to executives. I've worked with companies on drug screens. I've done financial services, which is a little bit more like the before after. But this is really, when it comes to what we do, we see so many folks. Let me kind of take a step back. The people that we're serving typically are 65 to 85 years old. Not to say there aren't 30, 40, 50-year-olds, but that's kind of the chunk, like we had talked about. And I think the other piece to it that's a little bit unique is, in many service lines, you're expecting certain things to happen in life. I'm going to buy a house. I might have a kid, that kind of thing. These are a lot of unforeseen, unexpected scenarios. Mom fell down the stairs.
Yes.
Dad had a stroke. I need to have a huge surgery because my body's I'm getting older. So lots of these things kind of come up, and there are a lot of them that aren't planned. And so then we want to be thought of. And so I think how do we avail ourselves to people has been a big push. But no, I think I found it through kind of weird means, kind of the stars aligned. And then I really believe in it, I think, because you get to see someone comes to you and they're really in a bad spot. And then through hard work with therapists, clinicians, they leave independently many times. And so it's really kind of cool to see.
Very interesting. And obviously, I can hear your passion in that voice as
Sure.
well. You're excited, and I think that's just a part of natural exuberance you have about you. I think
Yeah,
that's
you
a
got to
good-
believe in it,
You
right?
got to believe in it. I totally agree with you. So, what are some of the things people should be looking out for before they say, hey, I think I need some service like what you provide?
So I think general advice and then specific advice. General advice is just you have to be your own steward. You have to understand things. You have to do some research. I always worry about the people that are like the last minute planners, and that's not just with skilled nursing and rehab, but just in general. You know, if you're waiting for the perfect moment, that perfect moment will never come. So I think that's kind of the first part. The more specific is I think you have to lean on not only your family and your friends, your inner circle, maybe your community, your neighbors. This isn't a big push about us, but in general, you need to look at different resources, whether it be communities, fitness centers, senior centers. What does the federal government think about the ratings of certain companies? Do your due diligence to figure out what are the services, who's providing the service, and are they experts, and are they any good at what they're doing? And I think kind of in that order, because there's so much that I just worry sometimes people don't do their due diligence. They buy something maybe new and shiny, and then they go, wow, I wasn't expecting this.
And again, in this case, I think they're looking for a place where they can actually have that care provided.
For
So
sure.
who are some of your best referral sources, people who can refer you business?
Sure. So I think from my perspective, after doing this almost 3 years, I'd say it's kind of twofold. It's downstream providers is kind of what I call them, or / community, and then like our hospital partners. Obviously, our hospital partners are probably 70-80% of our business, just for the mere fact that a lot of the procedures and the care is being provided from them down to us. That's kind of why I call it downstream. We're part of the downstream. So kind of just hospitals that you would know around town, the Beaumonts, the Henry Fords, the St. Joe's, the Trinity System, Michigan Medicine, all of those are wonderful partners of ours, and we take care of thousands of their patients. On the flip side, I think we have to do, meaning my role, is also educating people, and I think that's the difference between selling and educating. When you educate someone, they feel empowered and they can make their own decision. You did your job as a salesperson.
Correct.
As opposed to pushing information on people or a product or service. And so when I look at the community aspect, we have wonderful relationships with independent livings, assisted livings, memory cares. Because you got to imagine when you look at the demographics of those people, they fall within that typically 65 to 85 years old. And so we spend a lot of time making sure that their activities coordinators, their executive directors, their clinicians at the actual independent assisted livings understand what we can do clinically, so that there's no question when they leave, they can go to the hospital, go to us, and go right back to the great life they were living. And then I think the last piece is strategic partnerships and conversations, kind of like this, where it brands us in a wonderful way, and we also add value. So we have a lot of folks that have cardiac-related challenges. We give a bunch of presentations about that. We give a bunch of presentations on fall prevention. The things that are causing the main issues of why you'd be with us, we're talking proactively about how you can prevent, right? I mean, we're almost doing the opposite. Maybe I should push some people down or something. But no, I think it really is when you become the expert and you're out in the field and you're talking to them about what you might need. And especially, I think the biggest value is, sometimes we're not the best fit for people. Sometimes they might just need a little bit of help doing, laundry and dishes, and maybe home care is a good fit for them, maybe a couple times a week. So I think it's just hearing what their needs are, hearing what the topics are, and then from the hospital perspective, adding value, and then from the community, adding value.
And so most people, obviously, when they use your services, are they home? Are they at a senior assisted living? Where are they mostly?
Yeah, so not to take a step way back, but ProMedica and HCR Manor Care became one company last year, so it's the 15th largest healthcare system in the country. In terms of the Heartland brand, which is you see the logo, we provide skilled nursing and rehab. We also do home care and hospice services.
Okay.
To answer your question about where are people coming from, it depends. Some people are failing at home. They end up at the ER, and then sometimes they can come to us.
Okay.
Sometimes they get to the hospital, and then they have a couple procedures done. They need a surgery or two. They come there weak. They can't go right back to their home, so then they use us. The same thing can be said for independent living, assisted living. Challenges happen at the hospital back to us. So I always feel like we're the middle ground buffer that's strengthened so they can go back. But the other services we have, I mean, it's kind of across the board. We have an insurance company that we're a part of, a ton of physicians that we work with and are partners with down in Toledo. We also have a company called Arden Courts, which specializes in memory care. So back to the continuum, ProMedica and HCR Manor Care have really done a nice job of, we kind of own all the pieces of the continuum. And the value for patients is that you can stay within that, which makes it easier. And then also it reduces cost. So kind of both of those things in a very short period of time are very good.
Fantastic. So what do you see as success for you in the future?
For me personally,
Yes.
I think just growing. I think it's like everything. Anything that makes me a little nervous or uneasy, I think don't do it. And then my other part of my brain thinks you're not going to grow if you don't do it. And so I think like everything, my dad's kind of been a big believer in when you push yourself outside your comfort zone, that's when the growing happens.
That's the only
And
time.
the pain, a little bit of both. But no, I definitely see myself staying within the company. I really, really believe in the company. I'm a local Toledo guy. Quick Toledo plug there. But I really believe in the mission because to me, to give people, again, I go back to the widget thing. You can sell someone a suit, you can give them a car, whatever that is. But to give them the freedom and their health and their life back is something that I just, from day one, I've been kind of sold on. Very
fantastic. Any personal fun things you want to share about what you like, what you do?
Well, after my life is over after March, when my second child comes, no, I think my brother has a little girl at home. Our extended family is growing. My cousin just had a child out east, and so I just think we're at a great state. I feel like my wife and I are at a great stage of life where we're taking on more responsibility within our own lives and at work, and I just think it's kind of an upward trajectory of more fun and more fun.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
Very good. Well, I appreciate that, and thanks for coming.
No, you're
and I
very
know
welcome.
people learned a little bit about your business, but also learned a little bit that there are responsibilities that people have, and if they have certain needs, then these are the people who can help them out
For sure.
in that respect. Fantastic. Well, thanks for coming.
Minesh, thanks so much.
Sure.
Appreciate it.